The history of the British Parliament can be traced back to the early medieval period. Over time, it has evolved into one of the oldest and most influential parliamentary systems in the world. This essay will provide an overview of the key developments and milestones in the history of the British Parliament. The roots of the British Parliament can be found in the assemblies convened by the Anglo-Saxon kings and the Norman rulers who followed them. These assemblies were initially consultative in nature, with monarchs seeking advice and consent from influential nobles and bishops. However, they gradually evolved into more representative bodies, including the Great Council and the Curia Regis. The most significant development in the evolution of Parliament occurred in 1215 with the signing of the Magna Carta. This historic document, imposed upon King John by a group of rebellious barons, established the principle that the king was subject to the law, and that his powers were limited. The Magna Carta also introduced the concept of due process and the idea that decisions should be made through consultation with a representative body known as the Great Council. In the mid-13th century, the Great Council transformed into a more formalized structure known as the Parliament. It consisted of two chambers, the House of Lords and the House of Commons. The House of Lords comprised high-ranking clergy, nobles, and senior bishops, while the House of Commons included representatives from shires and towns. During the reign of Edward I, in the late 13th century, Parliament's structure became more defined and its powers expanded. The Model Parliament of 1295 is considered a crucial milestone, as it laid the foundation for the modern parliamentary system. It established the principle of regular parliaments and clarified the role of the Commons as representing the wider community. Edward I also introduced the practice of granting taxes and legislation through Parliament, emphasizing its role in financial matters. Throughout the medieval period, several developments strengthened the role of Parliament. The emergence of the House of Commons as an independent entity with powers of taxation and legislation set the stage for the democratization of the parliamentary system. The Commons began to assert its authority and oppose the excessive power of the monarchy, leading to conflicts such as the Peasants' Revolt in 1381 and the Wars of the Roses in the 15th century. The Tudor and Stuart periods witnessed further transformation of Parliament. During the reign of Henry VIII, Parliament gained additional powers, particularly in matters of religious reform. The English Reformation resulted in the separation from the Catholic Church and the eventual establishment of the Church of England, with Parliament assuming control over religious matters. During the English Civil War in the 17th century, Parliament clashed with the monarchy over issues of governance, religion, and taxation. Ultimately, the execution of Charles I and the establishment of the Commonwealth under Oliver Cromwell saw Parliament take center stage, with the House of Commons becoming the primary legislative body. However, this period of parliamentary dominance was relatively short-lived, and the monarchy was restored in 1660 with the ascension of Charles II. The 18th century brought significant changes to the structure and powers of Parliament. The Glorious Revolution of 1688 resulted in the Bill of Rights, which further limited the power of the monarchy and strengthened Parliament's authority. The Act of Union in 1707 brought together the kingdoms of England and Scotland, creating the Parliament of Great Britain. The 19th and 20th centuries witnessed further expansion of parliamentary democracy. The Reform Acts of 1832, 1867, and 1884 extended voting rights and increased representation, slowly progressing towards a more inclusive democracy. The rise of political parties, such as the Whigs and Tories, later known as Liberals and Conservatives, shaped the dynamics of parliamentary debates and the formation of governments. In the 20th century, Parliament faced significant challenges, including 2 world wars, decolonization, and social and political reforms. The Representation of the People Act 1918 granted suffrage to some women, and the Parliament Act of 1911 reduced the power of the House of Lords. In recent history, Parliament's role in scrutinizing governments and passing legislation has continued to evolve. The creation of the Supreme Court in 2009 separated the judiciary from Parliament and further solidified the principle of the rule of law. In conclusion, the history of the British Parliament is a story of gradual change, transformation, and the pursuit of democracy. From its early roots in medieval assemblies to the present-day system, parliamentary democracy has expanded and adapted to reflect the changing needs and aspirations of the British people.